Hello everybody, it's December 8th, 2010. You know I like to talk about printing money on this channel, and we finally have a great clip catching Ben Bernanke in a lie about printing money on the Daily Show with Jon Stewart on Comedy Central. It was kind of funny that this had to happen on a comedy show, but this really, shows Ben lying, saying that he's not printing money. Because right here, I'm going to play a couple quick little clips, and then I'll put a link to the actual video. You really need to see it. It's only 3 minutes long, and it's really good exposing Ben Bernanke. And it also talks about the $100 bills that they've printed up that are useless, like $1 billion. They can't even print money. I mean, that's like the only thing that they're able to do these days, and they can't even do that right. So they've printed up all these $100 bills that are useless. So anyway, here's the first little clip of Bernanke 21 months ago talking about being asked about printing money on 60 Minutes.
To lend to a bank, we simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account that they have with the Fed. So it's much more akin, although not exactly the same, but it's much more akin to printing money than it is to borrowing.
You've been printing money.
Well, effectively, and we need to do that.
So right there he admits that they're printing money. Now in the interview in 60 Minutes on this past Sunday, he says after this, if you watch the actual interview, which you should also take time to watch, it's about 15 minutes, he says that we're not printing money, we're lowering long-term interest rates, and the other thing that he said he was doing, which basically they're printing money, but they're lowering long-term interest rates. The last 2-3 weeks, interest rates are rising. The graph has bottomed out and is shooting up now. We have interest rates haven't been this high in 6 months. I was expecting the 30-year mortgage rate to go below 4%, but it doesn't appear that the QE2 is working. The printing money 2 doesn't seem to be working very well. Interest rates are on the rise, so that's something that we'll have to keep a close eye on. I mean, that could be a total game changer with this sidestepping the inevitable, which is going to be higher interest rates. But they could be on their way now. This could just be a short little blip, or we could be seeing the beginning of higher interest rates. And next year could be nightmare unfolding. So here's the other clip of him on Sunday, and this is what he said here.
One myth that's out there is that what we're doing is printing money. We're not printing money.
Okay, so now he's saying that they're not printing money. So whatever. I mean, I don't know how you can listen to this guy anyhow. Yeah, sure, he's got a 1600 on his SATs, and he went to Harvard and this and that. Yeah, he's a bright guy, but he doesn't seem to know economics very well. I mean, he's running the Federal Reserve. He's one of the most powerful men in the world, not just the country. He doesn't know economics very well. He totally got housing wrong. He said there was no bubble, and he said it was unlikely that we would have a large decline in housing. He said the subprime was contained. There wasn't, doesn't seem to be an issue with the subprime. And heading into 2008, he said the economy was strong. I mean, he's gotten everything wrong. He's been totally wrong. He says in this interview on Sunday that he didn't see the crisis coming. I mean, I can't see why these people. I do. I understand why these people are reappointed. It's because he's guaranteed to print money. I mean, that's what the country needs to keep rolling right now. If they don't have a Federal Reserve that's putting zeros on the computer like he's talking about, they can't keep the country rolling. I mean, basically, we have to print money now to keep this country going. So, anyway, there was one other thing I wanted to talk about. I want to talk about silver. With silver hitting 30-year highs, it broke $30 an ounce. People that aren't into silver yet, that might be thinking about getting into silver, I'm sure they're kind of apprehensive at this price to get in. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind, that silver has some huge swings in price. I mean, just the last couple of days, down $2. I had an email from this guy a while back who got all upset, sent an email to a bunch of us that do videos on silver here on YouTube, and he said that, he put I forget, $500,000 into silver, and it dropped. It had a nice like 15-20% pullback, and he lost a few $100 like, just within days, and he was upset. He's saying how ridiculous this silver is, and how could you be in it? I mean, the best way to you can't try and do short term in and out of the silver market unless you're a professional trader, and even those guys get burned sometimes. But the best way to do it is just purchase whatever you can. Well, if you understand why silver's going up and gold's going up, there's nothing holding you back from just purchasing a little bit every month. Printing money, that's one of the main reasons that these commodities are going up, because they're printing a lot of money. Whether Ben says they aren't now because they're printing it to give it to the government, but when they were creating zeros on the keyboard to give it to the banks, that was printing money. Whether he says it is or isn't, they're creating money. They're expanding the monetary base. So all these commodities are going to keep going up. I mean, some people, they don't have 10, 20,000 to put into gold, so you can use a little bit of money, whatever you can get, 20, 50 bucks, you can get copper. Pre-82 pennies, I've done videos on here about the copper pennies. My son and I have been getting boxes of from the bank. You go through and pull out the copper pennies, copper's going to be going up. Copper's at $4.10 a pound. It's going to keep going up. It's going to be 5, 6. We should see $10 copper next year, the year after. Those pennies will be 5 cents a piece. I mean, it's illegal to melt them down, but at some point, it won't. You'll be able to convert those pennies into whatever the medium of exchange is at the time. I doubt it'll be the U.S. dollar by that time. But you have to be getting into these things like silver and copper if you can't afford gold. I mean, silver, you can get the junk silver. You can get 1-ounce coins. I feel sorry for anyone who doesn't know what's going on, and they're just relying on paper. Now, if you can't hold it in your hand, then you don't own it. I mean, you got to have physical silver in your possession, or physical gold, whatever it may be. I mean, there's 3.3 billion ounces of paper silver that have been sold. When there's only like maybe 300 million ounces available. That's more than 10 times the physical silver available for investment. Now, there's more silver above ground than that, but available for investment, there's more than 10 times it's been sold by the banks to individuals. They've sold it short, 500 million on the COMEX, and something like that just can't sustain itself. That's why Max Kaiser's trying to do this crash JP Morgan by buying silver. If everyone buys up the physical silver, and then people continue to want to be to be paid out in the silver that they thought they owned, and JP Morgan basically defaults on the obligation of paying off these silver contracts, then they're done.